Hi everybody, and welcome back to part 2 of Impossible Architecture. So today I just wanted to show about 10 or 15 different books, and I'll put the links on as well, depicting images and pictures of buildings and architecture that some still exist and some doesn't, but we'll go through it and have a look anyway. But in here I just wanted to start with this picture here. As you can see, the people are really quite small in comparison to the building. This building is only 2 stories. It's got a ground floor and a first floor, and you could put a ceiling in the middle of that floor and in the middle of that floor and have 4 stories there and still fit them people in quite easily. So it just seems completely unnecessary that people of this size would build buildings as high as that. And over here you can see that the horses and the carriages probably don't come up much higher than that, so I can't see why that much extra height would need to be built by such small people. In this picture here, you can see that that door is just humongously massive compared to all the people. That they might even only reach a third of the height of it. So a horse and carriage might only be halfway. So even that set of ladders there can fit in if you take them in like upwards. And all these blocks are massive as well. It would have taken a lot of effort for people of this size to build this 2-story building. And I think this shows mud flood as well, by the fact that here you can see on the arch that the quadrant is about here, and then the arch goes on further down. And if you look here, you don't get to see the arch. I know it's blocks there, but I think that the bottom of the arch on this one would be somewhat just underground, and if there was pillars underneath that, then there's more construction underneath. But I don't know for definite because there is flooring there. But just all the ancient stuff is so magnificent. And you know, if there weren't any roads anywhere and it was all horse and carriage, it's just amazing how it could have been done. It's just, to me, it's impossible. It's, you know, we're not in full understanding of what really happened in our past. And look at the size of them blocks; they're just huge. But anyway, I want to get on to the next books. So this one, Martin's mentioned more than once. It's a really good book. I recommend everyone to download it and research it. But the architecture in it's just amazing. I'll just skip down. And the plans for some of these buildings are just immense. You know, it's absolutely humongous. And look at that. Each one of these squares is a room. So that building, how long is that? But these ones here, this is, we'll see in a minute. Yeah, like this, where events take place and horse and chariots and that run around with obelisks in the middle. But these kind of buildings, I don't know if this actually did exist, but if it did, wow. And there's some ruins of somewhere. And Is that a fortified wall? Brick shit, I think that is. Some of the older structures are just so amazing, it's probably why they don't exist anymore. That one's in ruins. Looks like mud floods approached it. So this book is Illustrations and Descriptions of Paris from 1742. And look at some of these buildings, they're just so big. Massive, massive buildings. This is City Rouge et Sous Limites. Notre Dame. And look at the size of that door and the size of the people. It's just completely unnecessary to build something so large, because you could build that same building at a scale, at half a scale, you know, at 0.5, and that still would be an immense building compared to these people. And every single piece has detail, you know, everything is done perfectly. Nothing left undone. And the fact that buildings that are not churches, I suppose, or religious buildings have bells on shows that there was a bigger purpose for the sound rather than what we're told today. But I don't want to spend too much time on each book because there's quite a few books, but as you can see, all these kind of buildings are just so massive. Absolutely massive. And how could you build thousands of these kind of buildings and thousands of star forts and other forts with just horse and carriage and no decent roads? It just wouldn't work. La Royale. Size of that building. And the amount of time, money, designing, building, people working on the project to build something like this, you'd think that there'd be records of at least one of these buildings, of all the history that happened through its creation, but you know, you never find anything anywhere. Another thing I wonder as well is, like, nowadays these kind of buildings are generally owned by a rich person or something, and they're probably not all quite like as big as this either, but the fact that they're all owned by someone excuse me, in the days that they were actually built, I wonder if they were owned by one person or one family, or even a family and their next of kin, their family and their family. You know, this building could hold everyone you're related to, everyone they're related to and met through marriage or whatever as well. You could hold hundreds of people in here in just one building. And if it was built for one person because of their wealth, then it just seems so unnecessarily large. All of it. Anyway, going on to the next. And this is architecture from 1601. Roman. Stuff like that, it's just incredible. When people were going through the plague, most places in these books are actual drawings, because cameras obviously didn't exist in the 1600s as far as we're aware. But there's still such great detail, and these ones here right now don't have names and locations, but generally they do. And all of these in the background is different kind of beautiful buildings. So all these appear to be different places, but all have this extravagant architecture. Could you imagine living in a world where everything's perfect? Yeah, even the arches, everything is decorated, everything is clean. You know, you've got your river, and then your stairs right beside your river, everything. What a paradise it must have looked like at one time. And you know, to build these kinds of things with these massive arch ceilings, you know, yeah, people could have put a lot of effort into it, but there had to have been technologies to make things easier, because, you know, it's easier to work smarter than it is to work harder. You can get more done by being a bit smarter about it than you can just by putting force into it. So when these were constructed, there was definitely technologies used, because even if, you know, even if there was a giant that, and most likely was, but giants built this and lived in it, and even if the giants, say, their head was up this high, and they could stand next to this and be about this high, you know, this stuff would still be quite heavy for them, and they would still need technology to lift it up there and to machine it and everything to mine it. But for people this big, to get it up there with no, you know, no power, no tools like we have today, it would be impossible. I've seen videos of people moving really heavy blocks, like older men by themselves and that, and there are smart ways of doing it, but to build thousands of buildings like this everywhere in a short-ish period of time, over a few centuries or whatever, it's just impossible in my eyes. And it is possible for people to say that, you know, it's not true, these ain't real, they don't exist, and they're, even if they did, they're drawn wrong, and the people were probably bigger than that anyway. But when you look at ruins that exist around the world, they are of a giant form. They are massive, a lot of them. Anyway, so the next book. I'm going too slow. Architecture, civil architecture, from 1711 to 1716. So this one has some really magnificent architecture. These angels that have been sculpted and put up there are bigger than the people. You know, wouldn't it have made more sense for people of this size to build this at a scale of like a quarter of the size, and it would still be big. Obviously not as big, but just incredible. Truly magnificent. Yeah, these kind of buildings, you know, when they were built, how many people do you think lived in it? Even if the people, the giants, were I don't know, 25, 30 foot tall, you know, how many of them could you still have living in that building? So people of our size, how many more could you get into that building? You know, there would have been no homelessness if these buildings really did exist and didn't disappear. But look at this garden, it's just immense. You've got all these side buildings that are just, you know, better than most buildings today, even by their appearance. And a giant castle at back with side castles. It's truly incredible. There's a plan for it. Looks like faces. How long would it take to build something like this? You know, to raise this whole building up off the ground in such a beautiful way. So that one is Haupthalle in Domut des Fürstlichen Lustgardens unter dem Amphitheatro. Sorry, my lowest performing subject at school was foreign languages and history as well, as it goes. Just look at that is just truly beautiful. So yeah, there's if these are really buildings that existed, no wonder they have to disappear, because everyone would have somewhere beautiful to live, somewhere amazing. So let's get on to the next one. It's a photograph book from 1895. But as you can see, the people are just tiny compared to the floors. You know, you could, although this is showing, say, 1 or 2 floors up to that point, 3, 4, 5 floors. You know, you could get 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 floors out of that. It was made by people of this size. And the effort to build in water all the way down, it's just either a lot of effort, or, you know, like I read in what the Phoenician engineering was like in the past, they, you know, created their waterways. So, and even that would be quite a lot of work in itself. These buildings are just beautiful. Look at the size of that. What would be the purpose of something so immense? Blocks. Blocks like that. When people are like that. And only way of logistics was like, and you never even hear of like the sleigh of horses, where you've got a dozen horses carrying the trailer at the back, because you need a dozen horses because you've got such a heavy load of stone on the back or whatever. You never hear of that. You know, not like how you hear of Santa and his reindeer carrying him and his toys, you know. But you never hear of how these were constructed with lots of horses carrying really heavy carts or anything like that. Just magnificent. So yeah, I will leave the link to all these look at that, it's just incredible. All of it. And the plaques are always empty as well, aren't they? So yeah, that's another book. I'm running out of time, so I better go faster. Ruins of Paris, 1871. Pillars were very prevalent in structures all over the world in the old days. Pillars and arches. They say buildings like this caught fire, and they've got massive piles of rubble, and you know, you only see little bits of stain, of burn stains here and there, and it makes you wonder if it really was fire. And then get to buildings like that, and you know, it's just dark stains everywhere and no rubble, but it looks more like this has been devastated by a fire than the previous. But you know, there's always rubble around pictures that have apparently been done by fire. But, you know, all these buildings, all of them. You know, you can say that our ancestors were really inefficient, didn't really think much through, and that's why we used to throw our toilet waste out of the windows, because we didn't have plumbing and that 200 years ago. But we could build buildings like this. You know, we could solve all the mathematical problems to create this, but not to solve our plumbing issues until, sorry, whenever it was. So that's another book. This is Principal Interest of Rome from 1799. So if this was in the 1700s, if this was a real bridge, it was already fully built in the 1700s, so it would have been built long before then. Same as all the things in this book. You know, I see these kind of appearing formations everywhere. I wonder if that is just like cladding. But the plans, you know, they're so extravagant, some of these buildings. Why would you go to that much effort when you haven't got much but a horse and cart and a rocky road to go over? Just mud. So yeah, if this Proghetto place, if it really did exist, look at that, endless buildings, massive, massive central place. 1794, so this could have been built 1500s earlier. If you look at my timeline video, the reset timeline video I did recently, suggesting that these are probably 3,500 to 4,000 years old, being that they're giant structures. But giants did survive after the flood, so some of them could have also been post-flood, but a majority I think might be pre-flood. That's like Egyptian in the Roman days, Egyptian hieroglyphs. But to build some of these buildings, you know, their surveying equipment, their technology, their understanding, everything must have been so much greater than ours. Even if the people that built these, the giants that built these, were the same size as us, their understanding and their abilities would still be far greater than what we've got, you know, to know this kind of stuff. It's just been lost to us, we just don't know it anymore. But all things can be found. Look at a plan of that, that is just incredible. Pianta del Anfiletro Flavio detto il Colossio. Yeah, so I do believe that we have descended over time and that we used to be larger in stature and live longer, stronger, and better at building as well, better at everything, carving structures, drawing. But as we've polluted the world, and time's gone by, polluted the waters, things just, we don't use things and our understanding like we used to. We've basically fallen away from the way that we're supposed to be. I think that's the Vatican. Yeah, Vatican. And that looked like a keyhole and a key. Just incredible architecture. This really all did exist. I mean, for it to not, if it, all these buildings that you're seeing did exist, I've only got 3 minutes, loads of books to go through. If all these buildings did exist, then I forgot what I was going to say. (1677). Like buildings like this, if it was built for one man or one family, wow, probably never got to see half of it. It's just so much of it. And look at the size of the people. Yeah, that's what I was going to say. If all these buildings did exist, then how much effort did it take to get rid of them all? And look at the plans for it, it's just immense. Absolutely immense. It must have taken a lot to get rid of it. It's either that, or it's all still in existence, and the places are hidden. It's just incredible from floor to ceiling. I suppose the floor's a bit standard, but everything else is just perfect. Impeccable. So yeah, I'll leave the links to all these while the video's uploading. I'll go and find them all. Definitely worth looking at all of them. So I've got about 4 minutes, 4 books left. So I'll just show a couple more pictures out here. All these designs, all made in stone, and the amount of time and effort to do even just one of the ceilings in one of the buildings would have taken so long that, you know, it had to have been technology involved. It's just amazing. And is that even built as a building for people someone to live in it? You know, who knows? Just amazing. So you know that when these buildings were built, they definitely took care of their flooring and their stairs. It's all amazing looking. You know, if you was to dig deep enough wherever there's proof of mud flood evidence, you'll definitely find another floor 2 or 3 on some buildings. And I also think that you dig down low enough, you'll find a lot of old roads from older ages, probably of a better construction than ours as well. Just big, thick, massive stones rather than the mixtures that we've used today. If that was a real fountain, wow, look at it. I mean, even just to carve, just say, them two babies there, that would have taken ages. But to do the whole lot. And what are the balls that float there as well? So yeah, the book Architectura françoise from, I don't know, sometime in the past, 1750. Right, yeah, that one. It's got a lot of designs for the kind of architecture that you do see around. So, not long left. Illustration of fortifications. Yeah, they were definitely designed and built even up until the Roman times. Showing the plans and everything. Elevations, sections. That's probably why the last reset took so long, because there's so many walls to get over. But you know, plans like this, if that's the entire star fort, and then you're building the walls as the edges there, and these are as big as cities, you know, how thick is this foundation? How strong is that? The stuff that you can't see, and then you do see the star fort walls on top. You know, like these bits would be the star fort walls, I suppose. But the amount of strength you need underneath it, it's amazing. It's like you do that a lot of the time. So yeah, this one, 1728, German. Incredible buildings and architecture. And that looks like it's on the water, just a massive giant structure. But yeah, if all these buildings really did exist, oh my god, where are they now? And that John Strice book I read, people used to walk around in gold, there was gold everywhere, but where's all that gold now as well?